Hello again. Yesterday, I gave you an overview lacking much detail about the things I'm facing today. As the old saying goes, the devil is in the detail. Now, we're going to spend time now looking for the devil. Today, I'm going to give you the detail, and I'm going to beg you to please pay attention, because it is very important that you understand that this is not just about me, but it's about many other people like me. Today, I'm going to focus on the New Jersey Division of Social Services. Now, last week on July 17th, I sent a fax to their Trenton office. Now, I've been dealing with their office here in Burlington County. But again, getting no satisfaction there, I decided to go on their website and find their Trenton office and make contacts there. Now, I sent a fax to 609-631-4606. I don't know who that fax goes to, but I put several names. These are the names of the people I've been dealing with for the last 6 months with no results. I sent it to the attention of Debbie Petrick, Assistant Supervisor. But I also have Miss Carr, Miss Santiago, Carlos, Steve Lewis, Teresa Fleming, and Tiffany Brown. Now, those are the people that I've been dealing with over the last 6 months, some just within the past few weeks. Now, what I'm going to do, as I mentioned, I did not start documenting this until sometime, I think it was April 30th. But basically, I have several numbers and contact people that I want you to be aware of. My goal is that it will get to the right people, whether, again, it's a congressman, an attorney, their supervisor, a newspaper reporter, one who wants to write a novel, whoever that can bring attention to my plight. I was going to say that all I want to do is get paid, but that's not the case. Yes, I want to get paid. But it's at the point now where this could help or this could hurt someone else who doesn't have the capacity or the faith or the support or whomever to deal with it the way I'm dealing with it. So if our system is so corrupt, or if our system is so inept, something has to change. And as I mentioned yesterday, change comes from the power of many, but only when the many come together to create that which is invincible, the power of one. We need to come together as one. And whatever the problem is, it needs to be fixed. Now, I have a phone number here for Miss Carr. I've called her numerous occasions. Okay. Now, I have a phone number here for Miss Carr. I've called this number on numerous occasions. No result. She never answers, never got a call back. 609-518-4798. Now, again, that's the number in Burlington County in Mount Holly. Now, my tenant told me she spoke with Miss Carr. And Ms. Carr told her that she needed to go and speak with the interview department for housing. That number, 531-3541. Now, these dates are not documented. But again, this happened over a period of several months with no results. But I started documenting these activities on April 30th. On April 30th, I spoke with a Miss Huda. She was helpful and put me through to a Miss Santiago, who gave me, I wrote down the same old sorry excuse about my tenant not getting the proper paperwork to them until the middle of April. Now, my tenant told me she turned the paperwork in January or February. But be that as it may, Miss Santiago told me it was the middle of April, and it would take 30 to 45 days after that to process the paperwork. And I wrote down here, this is unacceptable. But 30 to 45 days after has come and gone. It is now July 22nd. I still have not gotten paid. Now, on May 18th, I called, couldn't get a real person. May 19th, I called that same number, 609-518-4798. Got same voicemail, still waiting for a return call. Never returned my call. Same message, same result, zero, nothing. June 8th, 2015, that's when I went to the website for the Community Affairs Department, and there was a number there, 609-292-6055. That's social services in Trenton, located at 101 South Broad Street, Trenton, New Jersey. So on June 8th, I called Trenton, and I wrote here, hallelujah. I spoke with a real person who actually seemed willing to help. After briefly explaining my plight, I was told to call 609-292-3717. After calling that number and again explaining my plight, the woman agreed that the fact that we have not received a check since January was disturbing, but said that I was speaking with the wrong department. She then transferred me to a young man named Carlos, who told me that I needed to contact the local branch in Burlington County. I told him that's not going to work. I've been doing that for several months and got nowhere. He finally said, he agreed to listen to my case. So after telling him I've been trying to work with him since February with no luck, he finally agreed to help me. He asked for my case number and I gave it to him, and I gave him my number. And he told me he would get someone to help me. I asked for his name and number. Again, he said his name was Carlos, and his number is 609-588-2400. It's now 12:58 p.m. on June 8th, 2015. Hopefully I'm getting somewhere. I typed that to myself. I will hold off for a day or two before calling the TV stations and newspapers. On June 10th, I received a call back from Carlos. He, by the way, has been the only one who has done what he said he's going to do. So he called me on June 10th, 2015. He told me to call a Steve Lewis at 518-4702. He said Mr. Lewis is in a supervisory capacity and he will assist me. Now, I called that number, 518-4702, and got a voicemail. I left a message. I called that same number about an hour later, and the lady who answered said I had the wrong extension. She transferred me, and I got Steve Lewis's voicemail. I left him a message, and it's now 4:06, June 10th, Wednesday afternoon. June 11th, at 10:42, I called Steve Lewis again. The woman who answered the phone said he was not available, but she did listen to what I had to say and said she would be sure Mr. Lewis got my message and would get back to me. Mr. Lewis called me back at 3:07. He was a bit more cordial. He seemed to be singing the same old song as the others, however. He said, due to confidentiality, I can't really give you any information. And I said, this is crazy. I'm the landlord. She's been at my house for 6 months without the state paying me a dime. In any event, he said he would call me back in the afternoon, that afternoon, or tomorrow morning. It is now 5:07 that afternoon. He has not called yet. Hopefully, he will call in the morning as promised. On June 12th, the next day, I called him. He thought that I should have heard something, but I did not. He said he would call me back. He did call back and left a voicemail and said they were meeting at 2 or 3 o'clock and would call me after the meeting. It is now 5:32 on Friday, still no call. I called them about 4:50 and left a message. Monday, June 15th, called and spoke with Mr. Lewis again. He said the meeting did take place on Friday, but he still hadn't heard nothing. I told him that I needed a quick and positive reply, no threat, but no other choice because I'm at my wit's end and I'm going to go public. He said he understood and he wanted to get it resolved as well. On June 16th, I received a call from a Teresa Fleming. At 11:04, she called from 261-1000. I didn't pick up. She left a message asking if the tenant was still in the unit and if she was paying her share of the rent. And she asked that I return her call at 588-2159. I returned her call at 11:19. Now, mind you, she called me at 11:04. I called her back at 11:19. Whoever answered the line said that Teresa was not in the office today. I replied to her by telling her that Teresa had just called me and asked me to return her call at that number. The person seemed a bit surprised by my answer, and she put me through to a number that asked for a mailbox code. I called 588-2159 again and told the lady that that extension she put me to was not the proper extension. She apologized and took my number and said she would have Miss Fleming give me a call. By the way, Miss Fleming asked me if the tenant was paying her share of the rent. The tenant never paid any portion of the rent to us. We got our checks directly from the state. It seems to me Miss Fleming would have known that. Now it is June 17th. I received a call back from Miss Fleming. She's now asking me if the property is in foreclosure. I told her something fishy is going on here. Why is this coming up all of a sudden? She said she should have this resolved by Friday. Always something new, I typed here. Now it's now Friday, June 19th at 3:53. I just called that number, 588-2159, got a recorded voicemail. I left another message for Teresa Fleming and said I needed a return call right away. I hung up, called the number again, got the same voicemail. I did not leave a message the second time. June 22nd, which is on a Monday, I called Teresa Fleming again. A very nice man answered the phone with the same old story. Miss Fleming is out of the office and will return on Friday. He said that since I am not the tenant, he cannot give me any information. I told him that the tenant is still living in my house and we have not gotten any rent checks since January. He says to me, I hear that story all the time. So now I say to myself, full speed ahead, Facebook, newspapers, TV, whatever I need to do to get some action. On June 25th, I called my tenant. A young person answered the phone and said she was at work. When I asked where she worked, the person said, hold on. There was some conversation in the background, and then we got disconnected. And I put disconnected in quotation marks. They hung up. Now on July 2nd, at 4:45, I called my friend Carlos. He thought things had been handled by the supervisor to whom he had referred me. a few weeks ago. I told him we were no further along than when we last spoke. He said he would try to get someone to call me with some answers. It is now 5:15, no call back. On July 7th, 2015, I received a call from Tiffany Brown at 9:51 from 609-584-4393. She left a voicemail and asked me to call her back. I called her back at 10:49. We had a lengthy conversation. She said she was trying to find out exactly what's going on. She said there may have been some confusion as to the two properties and which one was in foreclosure. So you see, I have two rental properties. Neither one, by the way, is in foreclosure, although one is close, partly due to the fact that we have not gotten paid from the Department of Social Services. In any event, I said, what has that got to do with anything? This property is not related to the other property, and the other is in danger of going into foreclosure if we don't get our money. She said she would try to get to the bottom of everything and hung up. And I wrote down, we will see. In the interim, full speed ahead. Now it's Friday, July 10th. I called Tiffany Brown at 11:25 and got a general voicemail message. I left a message for her. It's now Monday, July 13th at 3:08. I just called Tiffany Brown. I'm currently on hold. The lady who answered the phone said, hold on, I will see if she is available. After a minute or so, she comes back on the line and says, may I tell her who's calling? I told her that it was Lou Rogers. The lady asked me if she could tell her what it was in reference to. I replied that Tiffany knows what it's in reference to because she was the one who called me and promised to call me back and never did. The lady said, please hold on. After a few minutes, she comes back on and says Tiffany was not in the office. Why am I not surprised? I told the lady that I was still waiting for a return call. That never happened. She asked for my number. I gave it to her, but also told her that Tiffany had already had my number and that she was just another long list of people who promised action and did not deliver. The people at Social Services have not given us any instruction. Now, the people at Social Services have not asked us for anything. They've asked us, is the tenant still there? Yes. Is the property in foreclosure? No. Although, what does that have to do with anything? They owe us the money. No one ever asked for anything, but we still sent that fax last week showing a bill from the mortgage company proving that the property is not in foreclosure, and we still have no answers. Now, on July 20th, I went with the police to the property to find out what's going on because, again, at that point, I had not talked with the tenant. I wanted to find out exactly what's going on. So I go to the property, and I don't have the key to the top deadbolt, so we couldn't get in. We went to the back door, and the screen door is locked, so I couldn't get access to the door to get into the house. Now, we knocked and knocked and knocked. No one came to the door. Now, for that door to be locked with the deadbolt and the screen door to be locked, someone had to be in there, but no one came to the door. And the police said that they could not break the door in, and I didn't want to damage the door anyway. The next day, I get a call from the tenant, and she says, I understand that the police came by yesterday. I said, yes, because I need some answers. Now, on July 21st at approximately 11:30, I called Carlos again. He apologized and said because of confidentiality rules within the department, he is not privy to a lot of the detail, but asked me to hold on and he would get me a supervisor. So he puts me on hold. Lo and behold, who comes on the phone but Tiffany Brown? And I said, Tiffany, you have not returned my phone calls. She says, I did return your calls, but you didn't pick up, and I didn't want to leave a message. Well, I don't want to call her a liar, but I don't believe she called. I saw no missed calls from either number that she called from. I don't believe she called. But she gives me the same, we're on the phone for about 15 minutes. I get no answers, really. Now she has gone from, is the property in foreclosure to, well, you know, it takes time, and because they applied doesn't mean they're going to be approved, and we're trying to get to the bottom of this. You know, it goes again. Is she at the property? Is it in foreclosure? Did she turn the paperwork in? What date did she turn the paperwork in? Still no answers. I hope I didn't bore you with this detail. I hope that you find this unbelievable. But it is believable. It's all documented. I hope that this will inspire you. It will energize you to make a phone call. If you know someone in social services, if you know an attorney, again, if you know a newspaper reporter, if you know anyone that can get this story out there, this is absolutely crazy. And again, God is on my side. He won't let me fail. He's always opening doors. I have faith. I don't worry about things. I'm determined. But it's not about me now getting my money. Do I need my money? Yes. Do I want my money? Yes. But there are people I know out there going through the same thing. If it's an inept system, it needs to be fixed. If it's a corrupt system, it needs to be fixed. Someone, the power of one, a group, we need to come together and not let this perpetuate itself. Changes come from the power of many, but only when the many come together and form a force that is invincible. That is the power of one. Thank you.